Welcome back to News Now from Fox, everybody. Taking a live look over Orlando, Florida on this sunny day. It honestly has been some beautiful weather here in the Sunshine State. I don't want to brag. I know a lot of you are dealing with some cold temperatures still, but a really, really nice day here in the Sunshine State. And I'm bringing you out to Orlando, Florida, courtesy of our SunTrust cam here at Fox 35 Orlando, because the Conservative Political Action Conference is in day 2. And we've got lots of big Republican speakers expected to talk today. So, what is the Conservative Political Action Conference? A lot of people have those questions. So joining me right now is Florida political analyst Eddie Fernandez. Eddie, how are you? Thank you so much for joining us on News Now from Fox again.
It's always my pleasure. I feel like every time we talk, we have to brag about the beautiful weather here in Central Florida.
I know. I feel terrible doing it, but so we're here to talk CPAC 2021. Former President Donald Trump is expected to speak on Sunday, but a lot of people have questions regarding what is this event? Really, what is the purpose of CPAC every year?
Well, CPAC was founded in the mid-70s. The Conservative Political Union, and it's an incredible organization in the sense that when you look back at its storied history, its first keynote speaker was none other than Ronald Reagan. Right? It's an organization that attracts elected officials, activists from around the United States. What's amazing about it, and I can speak from personal experience. When I was president of the Young Republicans, or doing these different activities, it was an amazing opportunity. Whether it was a young activist or an older activist, it made no difference. You were sitting side by side to the elected officials and to the thought leaders from around the country. You had direct access to them, and most of all, being able to listen to the ideas, listen to the thoughtful conversation. And that is such a powerful thing for the conservative movement across the United States.
Now, Eddie, we are expected to hear from Florida Governor Ron DeSantis today at 9. We've got Texas Senator Ted Cruz speaking for the first time since his Cancun trip controversy. And we've also got Senator Rick Scott, a lot of top Republican lawmakers. So what do they go there to talk about? What do you feel that the content at CPAC is all about?
Well, Regina, I think your list is so important. I think your list is so important because paying attention to who the headlining speakers are at CPAC is so important to be able to understand the political climate of the Republican Party. Now, these are not affiliated organizations, but there's certainly some Venn diagramming going on. And so we're able to predict a little bit about who is going to be leading the party, who the leaders in thought and in public policy will be. But just as important, Regina, is who is not speaking. What they're going to be talking about, lots of these speeches have to do with current events, with current policy issues, particularly at the federal level, certainly at the state levels as well. And that's going to be covered. There's no doubt about it on these issues. But when we even look at the 45th presidents, at Donald Trump's sort of ascendance to the presidency, we very much see him involved in CPAC at the beginning. Donald Trump, who in many ways is regarded to as a populist, nonetheless, his 2011, 2012 speeches got a lot of his political juice in CPAC. There's the famous picture of him hugging the flag. So it is certainly a meaningful event, if nothing else, for party insiders.
Now, Eddie, you mentioned former President Donald Trump. There's a lot of, I don't want to say speculation, I don't know if that's the right word, but there's a lot of questions surrounding the leadership and goals of the Republican Party at the fact that he is headlining the event on Sunday. What do you think this says about the Republican leadership and what they are looking to achieve from CPAC this weekend?
Yeah, that's a great question, Regina, and I think it's everybody's question as well, is what is the direction of the Republican Party and of conservative thinkers? Keep in mind these overlap, but they're not a perfect overlap. And I think truly from the perspective of just what the normalcy of an election followed by a CPAC convention, when we look at these things, it's very normal for the immediate former president of the Republican Party to speak at CPAC. There's nothing unusual about that. What is unknown at this point is Donald Trump's political future. certainly the Republican primary in 3 years, 4 years. So those things are the unknowns that we're certainly paying attention to. And I think his speech will also serve, along with other speeches, serve to indicate some markers for us as to what we can expect to see. And there's this question out there, particularly in the media, about who is the leader of the Republican Party? Is it still Donald Trump or is it not? I think this weekend actually is going to be telling for it.
And Eddie, going off of Trump and his presidency, I noticed that on the CPAC agenda, even just for today, a lot of the topics and readings are big tech protecting elections, all discussions following major headlines from this year, including there's a reading specifically called, what is it? Oh, it was the protecting election voter fraud. So a lot of major headlines from when former President Trump was in office. So are these following his views? Are these following, instances that he sparked?
Well, to say that these things are unrelated to Donald Trump would just be untrue. But at the same time, I would say these are some of the major questions of our civic life, of our life in the United States at this point in time. These are the types of questions that thought leaders, political leaders, activists want to hear about. These are relevant topics and truly things that impact, particularly the conservative side of the aisle. So these topics, I think, would be occurring nonetheless, but they wouldn't be as relevant if it wasn't for the Trump administration. They go hand in hand. And I think that from that perspective, what is said here, I think, will possibly shape Republican policy and votes, particularly at the legislative level, over the course of the next few years.
And Eddie, this is following the major Capitol riot, the Capitol breach on January 6th. Do you think that this will be addressed at all during the CPAC event?
Well, that's an interesting question. I don't think there's going to be many or any people at CPAC that in any way endorse what happened on January 6th. I can't imagine anybody who actually does. Whether it gets addressed or not, I don't know that it's different from other things we saw in 2020, violence that we saw in 2020. Certainly there were peaceful demonstrations both on January 6th and in 2020. I view this as just one of the most unfortunate events in American history, in recent history, I should say. And what happens and what transpires at this conference, in my view at least, is independent of that. This is a conference about thought, about policy, about networking, about listening to new ideas and exploring those. I think that's what this conference is genuinely about. And that sets up the next level of political thought and political leadership. And I don't know that while we certainly need to address and redress a lot of the things that happened on January 6th, I don't know this is the best venue for it. But certainly there has to be a reckoning about what happened that day.
Absolutely. Well, Mr. Eddie Fernandez, is there anything else you'd like to add? Anything else viewers should know about CPAC?
Yes, thanks, Regina. I will tell you, I think CPAC is probably one of those events, and I dare say this, it's normally a pretty mundane event for the average person. I'm not sure it's the kind of thing that most people want to tune into. I think it's exciting, but I'm a political nerd, and but I think that this year is going to be exceptional in the sense that there's a lot of moving parts and there's a lot of forecasting, I think, that will take place because of what happens over this next couple days right here in Orlando.
Absolutely. Well, Eddie Fernandez from Orlando, Florida, thank you so much for joining us and giving our viewers this explanation about this event taking place this weekend.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Great to be with you again.
Absolutely. And a huge